And greetings, everyone, and happy 2023. It's February already. The groundhog in the United States, it was just Groundhog Day, and the groundhog saw his shadow, and so we're guaranteed 6 more weeks of winter here, at least in the United States. I don't know what the groundhog has to say about England and all the other places that people live, but that's how we roll here in the States. We are just really excited to have a great crowd of people and some dear friends, and to get to talk tonight about a dear friend, an amazing mentor, an amazing inspiration for us. Tonight, our main sort of hero is Ann Farber. And so we'll get to talk about Ann here in just a little bit. I'm going to introduce my dear friends Emma Shubin and Veronica Boleski, my co-hosts. Emma, do you want to do another real quick intro or hi before you have to go and play concerts?
Hello, everybody. We are just honored to be kicking off this series of lessons from our teachers, discussing the amazing Ann Farber, as Stephen was saying. And I just want to say I'm so grateful to my colleagues who knew her even better than I did, that they're coming to say some things. We'll have plenty of time to discuss, hopefully at the end, and share any extra thoughts if anyone came with any extra stories, etc. Integral Steps is always happy to co-host VDM. We have some exciting upcoming masterclasses. Toru is just in about a week or so. And if you need any financial assistance, that's one of the things we really want to make sure anyone who has never had an experience in these rooms could have the opportunity to do so. But you don't want to miss Toru because he doesn't live in parts of the world where most of us get to on a regular basis. And it's just exciting that he's agreed to join us. So we hope we'll see you there.
Very good. Veronica, did you want to say hi and get us going? No?
Hello. Let's do breakout rooms.
All right, let's do breakout rooms. So for anybody who maybe hasn't been before, although I think everybody in this room has been here before, we like to just do a quick breakout and say hi to each other. So say hi, remind everybody your name and where you live and who you teach or used to teach or someday might teach, or some project maybe that you're up to. We're going to do 3 small rooms so that we can get everybody back even sooner. So you got 2 minutes. Ready, set, go.
Room.
All right. Everybody's making it back into the room.
Yeah, we lost you somehow.
Oh, there we go.
I know I disappeared. I found Steve, though.
That's right. We were here. Well, before we get into the main discussion of the night, we just want to remind everybody that we have some master classes coming up. I'm personally super excited and a little bit prideful, a little bit proud at the roster we've put together for this spring. It's pretty cool, I think. We have Toru Sakai from Japan. And if you've ever met Toru, he's the most lovely man. I've met him many years ago. He actually studied at Carnegie Mellon for a year with Marta Sanchez and Annabelle Joseph. He was with us, full-time back then. Toru and a number of our colleagues in Japan came every year for many years to Carnegie Mellon to get their initial credentials. And Toru went on to get the Diplôme Supérieur and is one of the main leaders of the Japan Dalcroze Society of Japan, which is massive, a highly successful crowd, hundreds of people, maybe thousands. I don't know. It's a big machine. And Toru's been one of the main organizer, leader, master teachers with that group for many years. So he doesn't make it to the States too often. And so if you can attend his masterclass, it's coming up this week, you should. You should pay the couple bucks and come, or maybe watch the recording if you can't make it on time, live. But we're really excited to feature Toru, to introduce him to a bigger crowd, and I hope you can make it. After Toru is Aneta Pasternak, who is one of our colleagues in Poland. Aneta was one of the, or maybe was the main planner of the ICDS 4, I guess, or 3, though 3 or 4, the International Conference of Dalcroze Studies that was in Poland. Aneta was the home organizer. She is a musician, as a dancer, as a choreographer, and teaches at one of the main universities there. And she'll be coming to Pittsburgh for the ICDS conference this August. And so we've been trying to get Annetta to do a masterclass for us for a little while. We had thought that she was going to do it in the prior season, and then all the business with Ukraine and all sorts of things happened, which is really just over the border from her. And everybody decided that wasn't the right time to do that masterclass. So she has agreed to come back and is going to join us this spring. And then Cynthia Lilly, who's on the call with us, is one of our dear New York friends and an amazing educator, and such a wonderful woman. Cynthia will do the next masterclass, I think maybe April. Is that right, Cynthia? I think that's right. And then if you haven't met, and I would think even fewer of our crowd have had a chance to meet Kai Liu. Kai is in China. He's this brilliant man. He's a jazz pianist. He's a theorist. He's a writer, and he's just delightful. Every time I've hung out with him, he's just got great energy, and so I was really excited to get him here as well. So and he'll be working with us, I think, in June maybe, or sometime after Cynthia's class. He's the last one of the season. So sign up for the classes. Come and meet some cool people, steal some ideas, and further your own practice. And I think that might be the announcements. Do we got anything more, Veronica, that we got to talk about? I'm
I
looking.
think that's it. Yeah.
Well, on our list here, we just want to tell everybody that the Congress at the Institut Jacques Dalcroze is happening in Geneva. It's the once every 4-year Congress, they call it, which is just the big conference. It lasts a week. People from all over the world will show up. You don't have to have any kind of credentials to be there. You just show up because you're interested. You register for the conference, and you sign up for classes when you register, and they give you your roster, and you get to sort of bounce around between the classes. And then between classes, you just get to say hi to everybody and go out to dinner and have coffees and walks along the lake Geneva and do some sightseeing. It's lovely. I'll be there, and I think Veronica and Emma are going to be there, and we would love to see. Greg's going to be there. We'd love to see all of you, and we know that many of our VDM friends will get to see in person this summer. So we're excited for
Really
that.
super cool. I'm most excited about that. Like
It's
all
gonna
these
be
people that we've gotten to know digitally.
Yeah.
To be in person.
And we expect our friends from all over the world will be at the Congress. So many of the people from from Australia and from Japan and Taiwan and China, these countries that it's harder for us all to bump into each other live. We kind of meet in the central hub every couple of years. So this is the year for that, middle of July. And then lastly, we have the International Conference of Dalcroze Studies that I am hosting at Carnegie Mellon. It's the first week of July. No, it's the first week of August. It's a Wednesday through Saturday, August 2 through 5. We have accepted we now know the roster, and there's some very fancy, very exciting things that will be happening. A lot of people from around the world coming to present, many performances, many just smart people talking about what they do. It's going to be cool. And we were just saying before we started the recording, there's actually going to be so many things happening. People are going to be frustrated they can't see them all at once, because there's going to be things happening in multiple rooms. It's going to be pretty cool. So I hope you'll all consider coming to Pittsburgh this summer, and joining the crowd in person. I really think it'll be worth your time. Without that, I'm going to hand it over to Veronica to introduce our plans for the night.
Yeah. So we wanted to honor Ann Farber and what she has given to this community. I personally have not had a chance to be in a class with her, so I think maybe I met her once, and I've heard many stories. And so I imagine there might be people on this call who have had long and rich and kind of deep relationships with Ann and as her students and colleagues. And I also imagine there might be people on this call or listening to this later who, are hearing about her for the first time. And so my hope is that we can all of those people can find something to take away from tonight. Aaron is one of our presenters, and I have him listed to go first, but he actually had a conflict, so I'm going to bump him to go last. And so we'll go in this order, please. Cynthia and then Greg and Leslie, and we'll ask Erin to go last. And I've asked our presenters to stick to 5 minutes because it's astronomically difficult to do that, but we're just hoping to leave some space for all of us to share more. And then the presenters, please feel free to like also jump in with more stories as people as we get a feel for what we're interested in talking about tonight. And then I know there's also some pictures shared, and so if you feel comfortable with me screen sharing the pictures that you emailed me, I'll do that. And maybe if there's time and interest, there's a 2-minute clip that Erin sent that I could share of Anne teaching some kids. All right, so Cynthia, we'll begin with you, please.
Can you remind me when this ends? Does this end at
We're gonna go until 10 p.m. Eastern.
just
So
till
we've got
10?
45
Wow.
more minutes left in this meeting. Yeah. I know, we could talk for hours and hours.
Yes, and we have. I mean, and it's a big subject. I knew Anne, met Anne when I was first a Dalcroze student. Gosh, in the late 80s, I think. I found myself at Langy, and she was the other half of the Anne and Lisa team, and they complemented each other just gloriously. Lisa had a sort of aura about her. There was almost a spiritual quality to the way she taught, and it was warm and wonderful, and we loved it. Anne had no aura at all. Anne was Anne, no nonsense. And that was wonderful too. Really wonderful. And yet for all of her kind of, all right, let's get down to business, beneath that, possibly one could call it a veneer, was an enormous heart, a very emotional person who could summon up our emotions through her teaching and bring us to tears. Both women brought me to tears on a regular basis. But those were wonderful, wonderful days being taught by those brilliant, wonderful women. And I was lucky to be able to do that about 6 summers in a row. When I moved to New York City, where Anne was the mother hen, the mother superior. And she brought us all together, and I was folded into all of that wonderful scene. So and then I studied with her during the year, of course, as well as in the summer. So I got a lot of Anne lessons, and ultimately became a close friend and a colleague. We taught together at the Special Music School, the School for Gifted Children. So it goes back a lot, and my feelings about her are so deep. I guess I want to share the first class that I had with her at Langy was a solfege class, and she sat there and she said, "Well, in Dalcroze we do fixed do," and I thought, that's ridiculous. And I practically got up and left. I just thought, I can't. I thought Dalcroze would be wonderful, but whoever heard of this? Of course, I stayed, and she made it. The adventure of getting into that 4-dimensional aspect of solfege was so thrilling, and through the years my ear grew, and my appreciation of how keys work together, how harmonies work together, grew. When Anne taught, she had a plan. She always had a plan, but she almost never stuck to it. People would ask questions and she would go on tangents, occasionally more than I wish she would, but she would. She had this questioning mind, and when something new came up, oh, well, let's talk about that. And how does it relate? And so we were always just, it was all a surprise. It was a surprise for her. It was a surprise for us. And yet we also knew that eventually we would get to wherever it was we were going to. And it always ended with a song, a piece of music, and something that we would understand so deeply because of the class that just happened. The eurythmics classes that would follow, I mean, the improvisation classes that followed the solfege and eurythmics.
1 minute, Cynthia.
Oh
1
my
minute.
God, I've only
I know.
scratched the surface.
We'll pause and then you can jump in with more.
For improv, it was almost always based on what we had done in solfege, which was also almost always based on what we had done with eurythmics. We were blessed with having 3 classes in a row. That's the way it worked in those days. And so there we were at the piano doing 5/4 or doing unequal phrases or doing augmented 6 chords or whatever it was she had led us into. And so it was just an incredibly deep exploration that became our own as well as with hers. We always felt as that we were all in this together. Anne was there with us, learning with us, through us. It was an adventure every single time. Amen.
Thank you. We can't wait to hear more. Greg?
Yeah, I want to yield back some of my time to Cynthia. Um, so I got to work with Anne 5 summers at Langy, and then 1 summer at the Lucy Moses School, actually also with you teaching, Cynthia.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
And I feel really honored to be included in this group of people talking because I only got to spend those summers with her and never had the chance to live and work with her and be a colleague. But yeah, she was absolutely transformative for how I hear music. And I guess to pick up with what you were talking about, her solfege classes, we have these do to do scales in the Dalcroze world. And I just remember she had endless ways of getting into them. And speaking, you were talking about how sometimes you'd ask a question and Anne would say, "Oh yeah," and then that would become the lesson. And I remember one day, I remember who in a solfege class, someone was like, "Well, what are all the different ways you can prompt do to do scales?" And it was like the best question to ask Anne ever. And she went through about 10 different ways. And she was so thrilled because she had recently thought of a couple of new ways. And so, normally like we're prompting, so these C to C scales are like a major scale that you're meeting already in progress. So like we were doing a B flat C to C scale, it's like we skipped this part of it and we just start with, right, from the middle of the scale. So normally we cue them right with like a dominant 7th chord with the do on top, and then do the scale, and then resolve. And Anne had lots of other ways, including making up a little improvisation around the C, where like the C would gradually be contextualized to become whatever scale degree. But the 2 that she was so excited about in that lesson, I'll never forget, she called the whisk and the cluster. And the whisk is this. Literally just a super fast whisk up a C to C scale. And let's just see, actually, I wonder if you all can tell from the whisk there, what scale degree this do is functioning as in this whisk. And when you know it, if you're brave, go ahead and show with your hand how you feel this C is functioning. I'm going to whisk again. I'll even whisk down. Now, if the whisk was too hard, she would also do the cluster. And the cluster was a whisk, but all together. So on the bottom and top will be a C. And now there's the cluster. That's right, that is the giveaway note. Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed, right? So this is our G major, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, si, sol. Scale. And then I guess, do I have 1 minute left, Veronica?
Sorry, enthralled listener here. Yes, you do.
Okay, so then oh God, there's so many things. I guess she also had this fabulous game called Paths to Do, where she would give you a note, any note. For instance, this is A flat or G sharp. You can make it what you want. Your job is to convince me what it is with a little tune that ends on Do. And then we all sing the scale that emerges. Does that make sense? So, for instance, I didn't plan this at all. Ya da dee da da dee da da da. And I've chosen the easy solution, which is to make A flat function as scale degree 1. Yeah, Aaron.
I think Anne would say that she would bring her lawyers out because
Oh, she would because I didn't include. I am so glad.
there's
So,
one
Aaron,
note
could I
we didn't
revise?
include. So we
There's one
still
note I
have
didn't
we have
include.
two choices.
We do. You're right, because I didn't include a G natural or flat in that. So, for instance, I could revise it and be ya da dee da 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 dee da 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 da, something like that. And now we have absolutely no doubt that we are in da 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 dee da 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 da, A flat major. So yeah, paths to do. And then I guess the last one I want to share is I was so enthralled with watching Anne's teaching of kids that I can't tell you the hours I spent in a practice room learning to play the songs she played, like as much as I could, note by note, like she played them, and in particular her skip, because she had this skip. Her left hand would just bounce around the piano like a wild stride pianist. And one of her songs, "See the Horses Galloping," I just remember sitting for hours going, learning to the bogom body, bodom body that she would have, right? It's just, yeah, anyway. So, yeah, just a couple of quick memories of my time in her wonderful classes.
Erin, welcome. We'll have you go last. So Leslie will share for 5 minutes, and then we'll ask you to share for 5. Leslie.
So mine is it's a lot more personal stuff. Will show Anne's heart, but also her rigor. So I just wanted to thank Greg, though, for one thing that he said about do-do-do scales. He said, it's meeting a scale already in progress. I love that. That was a good way to do it. So the first recollection I have of Anne was in Ithaca in 1981, and she was doing an improv class. We were on the stage in the auditorium at Ithaca College, and I was at one grand piano and someone was at the other. And we were just simply told to play like a conversation. And the first minute I sat down, my leg was crossed, and she said, address the piano. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll address the piano. And my senses became very heightened. And I can still remember like who was on that other piano and what key we played it. I mean, there's somebody in Pittsburgh, I won't say the name, and he was thinking I shouldn't be in this class. And we played together, and it was in D minor. Like I still remember that so clearly. And she just let us have at it. And like what came out was amazing. And another time I was sitting here and there was a woman on the other side who was a cellist. And we were supposed to guess what note they played first. And the woman played an A, and I knew that, but I pretended I didn't. And I started on G sharp to be provocative. And we had this improv back and forth. And in fact, that woman found me on Facebook one time, and she didn't remember us being in A major, but my life, like my class life was like this, like whenever I was in class with her, she was so like calling you to the highest attention possible. So having that experience really, brought me lots of benefits. And I realized when I'm teaching any class, like you can't think about anything else. Like you have to be so focused when you're doing a class, even little children. One time I was excited about something I was doing next, and I started thinking about it, and I messed something up in class, and the kids were like, you sang that wrong. And so this attention thing is a thread through everything that I do. I think of nothing else. Even if I have 2-year-olds in the room, it's like you're 100% there. And that was how Anne called us to be at attention. As the years went on, I did see her a little bit in New York. And I can remember having the rhythmics lessons and we'd be doing something. And suddenly, I don't know what it was, something super magic would happen. Like, oh, like, I don't know. I can't even remember what the things were because I couldn't analyze it because it was just so brilliant. But I remember stepping into a hoop somewhere and going, that was so logical, and we did it and it came about from some kind of mystery, but it was really awesome. I did get to be her colleague. And that was, as years went on, I decided I wanted to move back to New York. And I lived in the area and I lived in Vermont, which sounds exciting, but it's slow. So I moved back to New York and I wanted to teach at the Kaufman Center. And Anne was advocating for me to be there. And so she had originally terrified me, but she ended up going from being terrifying to being a true teammate. When I first was there, you're like on probation, right? And someone complained about one of my classes. So she canceled something, came and watched me teach and said, it's fine. And that was the end of that. Like I was on the team, everything was really going very well from that point on.
Wait
So
1 minute, please.
so from terrified to teammate was like a really big thing for me. As time went on, I was privileged to be able to start to teach the adult classes at Kaufman Center. And it was just so wonderful to be in the room with Anne. There were times when I would be leading something and she would improvise for me. And I didn't find a video of that, but improv would elicit this amazing movement. Like I have some stills and some videos that I would do because she was playing and people were moving and they were just so wonderful. And I was so privileged to have the time to just look at them and have nothing else to think about, just to listen to her and see this amazing, result from the kind of playing that she was doing. So I can't say enough good things about what she did for me as a teacher, and also the amazing things that we learned in her classes about music. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Aaron?
Yes, thank you. This is so exciting to meet and talk about someone we all love. Let me make sure that, okay. I met Anne the very first time I met Eurythmics. It was at the Longy School of Music in Boston over the summer. I met Lisa and Anne and Ruth all in one day. And it's just been, those mentors and many others, including many of you, ever since. It's been wonderful. I always distinguished Anne as having such a discerning mind about the work and a curiosity about the work. And I remember things that she would say in class about the Dalcroze work. I remember her always marveling over a canon in which she would say that and I apologize if other people have mentioned this already, but in which you are recording with your ear, you're recording the music that is happening, and you are storing it in your brain out of time in a other kind of brain setting that is out of time. And then later you're folding it back into movement, but all these are happening at the same time. And she loved that sensation, and watching the students, I think, also, of being able to store out of time and unfold into time. And I think also her ideas of the quick reaction and the follow. She would talk about the acoustic knife edge of presentness, which is in music. When we are listening to music, there is only one now, and there's only one answer you can give when someone says, what are you hearing? What do you hear now? There's only one knife edge, and that these exercises of the follows and the quick reactions expand the acoustic knife edge and bring us into awareness of what came before and bring us into awareness of what might come next. And it might happen, it might not happen, but that is what gives us such delight when we are performing and when we are listening and when we are participating and when we are engaged almost in any facet of music is this expansion, and I always appreciated her ways of describing it. And I think she was so interested in, I think this allowed her to be so interested in the puzzles and the puzzle aspect of Dalcroze games, of solfege games, of how can we figure it out? How can we get to do and prove that there's only one possible scale left? Or she played a game with me on a walk from one building to another where she said, okay, I'm going to sing a note, you sing the next note, we're not going to announce the scale. But at some point, we're going to, it wasn't clap, but we're going to acknowledge when the scale has been defined. We're not going to agree on it beforehand. We're just going to make up a melody note by note. But when there's no more room for wiggle, then we'll end it, or we'll find a way to end. And that, I think, also allowed her these wonderful exercises of, for example, when someone asks you for your phone number to...
Aaron, 1 minute, please.
Okay, thanks. To sing it with setting your scale degrees to, or sorry, setting your digits to the scale degrees. I remember at the time, my phone number was 2324135, and it was very nice. And then I moved to New York, and my number was 917-716-6619, and I had a hard time telling her. What was the other? Oh, and the other was her one way that she had figured out to call the roll when you say, Aaron, and I echo, here I am. But she said, no, you've heard me do a descending minor third. Can you flip it, but keep it a minor third? So for example, Aaron would become, here I am. At the time, that very day, she sang my name with an ascending, and I'm going to describe it for you so I don't embarrass myself, ascending major sixth. And I took a moment and collected myself for a number of seconds and did my best. And I don't remember if I got it or not. But this is very fun to do yourself. It's very exciting to do for yourself. Sing the interval that way. Mirror not just the diatonic interval, but the exact interval. And it's very educational and exacting.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is
So proud of
such a cool crowd, and such an amazing teacher. I have memories. I did not study extensively with Anne at all, but I hung out with her at a number of conferences and took a number of classes with her. And she was one of the first teachers that I was aware of who wasn't a Pittsburgh teacher. So I had my sort of initial first crowd of teachers. She was in the first circle of people. I was like, oh, I know that name. I don't know her, but I know that name. Somebody to hold with reverence. And I can remember very specifically being a student beside her at Oberlin at the national conference in Oberlin. And both of us, I can't remember who taught the class actually, but I remember taking the class with Anne and being able to be she was willing to be playful with me, and we just had such a lovely time. Well, we have about 20 minutes, and so we can take the conversation anywhere anybody would like, either another anecdote, or if you want to ask one of our presenters a question, or somebody offers something up. Emma, go for it.
I'm about to run away, so I just wanted to say, Anne's eyes were some of the most piercing eyes I've ever met of anybody, and you felt like she was looking into your soul, because I believe she was. She would sneak into people's practice rooms occasionally and give you advice. And so she's the first person who taught me how to play a skip, and assured me that I too, as I fumbled around on the piano, could figure this out. And she taught me a 1-5-5, 5-1-5. Like, she just was like, you can do this. And then when you get to the 5 chord, your second finger will play scale degree 2, and you will be fine. This will work for almost anything that you want to do. And it still does. And I think of her almost daily when I have to play skips. She was a genius at getting people to do what they could do at a very high level. I think that's maybe a hallmark of any great Dalcroze teacher, but she would just cut to it. And she'd be like, hang on, what are you up to over there? Let's fix that and let's find something that you can do that'll work. And she just went right to the heart of it. So.
Ms. Molly?
One of the first classes I had was at Longy in the evening. Anne used to travel up to Boston once a week to teach. And I had just had carpal tunnel surgery. So I thought, hey, I'll give this a shot, because there were handbills everywhere in the city about Longy, Dalcroze, so on. And I'm thinking of this one story, particularly since we're coming up on Valentine's Day. And so it was an evening class of adults, and her song of choice was Careless Love. And I thought, that corny song, but she wow, she took it to the max, you know. And I came away thinking, I just witnessed some mastery there. I thought that took a lot of nerve to teach something like that.
So
Or
good.
to a class.
Very good. I think Veronica has some pictures and maybe a small video. We should try to get these in before we would run out of time.
This was sent in by Aaron, I believe. And one more from Aaron.
Sorry, that previous one is us being called to attention and to address what we are supposed to address. Something went wrong and we are being helped.
Anything you want to say about this one, Aaron?
It was I don't remember the music, but it was a treat to move with Anne, always.
Yeah. Baby Greg.
I was 19 years old. Oh.
Oh. For those who don't know, there's Greg, and this is Lisa Parker and Ann Farber. And then I wanted to do one video. Oh, sorry, I forgot to optimize for video.
I just have to brag. I made this video.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are so honored that Maddie is in the room. Maddie, I came across it. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, Maddie, thank you for making it. I came across it, and then Aaron sent it and was like, Maddie made this. And I was like, oh, there's her name. I should have seen
This was kind of in the era of, you can't record Dalcroze classroom still, but I broke the rules and I was like, I'm just going to stitch this into something to show how this whole thing works.
Beautiful.
Let me play. Let me play. Good. Well, then his mother said, you may take the drum to bed. If you promise me you'll keep it very quiet. Well, then his mother said, it was quiet. It was still.
Thank you.
So nice. We have still a nice 15 minutes. So other thoughts or memories or questions, or if not, I'm sure we would have no trouble getting a couple more anecdotes from our presenters. Cynthia, you're up.
Well, I think we would be remiss not to bring up the time that Lisa visited New York. This was after Anne was no longer teaching at Langy. And these great women sat down at two pianos and improvised. And we listened to these women improvise together. It was just, it was thrilling. And we knew that probably this would never happen again, because it was rather close to when Anne left Dalcroze and left teaching. It was just one of those wonderful afternoons. That's all.
It's a lot. There's a lot to take in. Leslie.
Well, that was a big highlight for many years at all the conferences, was Anne and Lisa getting up there and playing. I can't remember if they would ask us for themes. They may have done that. You know, like, what would you like us to play about type things. And I remember several conferences where they were featured, and what you said is, it was just miraculous how together they were and how they could really agree on an ending, which is always the hard thing. I love when I teach improv and somebody's trying to end and they're like trying to end. And I always say, well, you could stop and then the other person would know you wanted to end. And they'll just keep playing and looking at them. But they were brilliant at that communication. It's great.
I'll just go on then. For a number of years, what Anne would do with her advanced classes, and we were people who got to know each other very well. We came back year after year. It was quite a gang of us. It was in those days when these kinds of things could happen. And she would give an assignment where we would have a poem or maybe a group of poems, and everybody would choose one of these poems and compose something to it, compose a song. I had never composed anything like that. And in fact, I was sort of auditing at that point because I was I was a colleague. I didn't have to do the homework, and we were walking together. And I said, well, I don't have to do that. And she said quite pointedly, I think you will enjoy it. I did, and I've been composing ever since. It was just it was a thrill to get that permission and to see how deeply one can go with that. For exams, until quite recently, part of the exam was a student bringing their own setting of a song, and that was part of what got tested. And it would have the exam start out on a very kind of wonderful place. It wasn't just about do-to-do scales. It wasn't just about knowing your chords and so forth. And we were dealing with a musician who just did this song. So that was a lovely thing she would bring also to it. It was a very unlike the world we have right now. She would not have thrived under the constrictions that we're now teaching in. It just wasn't what she was.
Very good. Aaron, Aaron pulled together a book of Anne's songs. That's right, isn't it, Aaron? Would you?
It's true.
Would you talk about it? I'm not sure that everybody on the Zoom would know about this book and what it's good, what it contains and where it came from. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The book came because I found myself with a folder of just so many Xeroxes of Anne's pieces and piano music and arrangements of folk songs and rounds, and so many rounds. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if this were all in one place? So I typed everything I could find into Finale, and Maddie designed the cover, and we printed it, and you can buy it. And I was going to mention, because of her interest in puzzles, there are some remarkable rounds in 5, especially. There's a round that I think came from an idea of, can I have a song in 5/4 that also uses twice as fast and twice as slow? So you have to have 5/2 and you have to have 5/8, and can I have all 3 meters in one song? And it works as a round, and she solved the little puzzle, and it's wonderful. And if I can play one piece from this, it's only 1 page long, and this is a piece about changing meter, and she presented it to us in a class where we had experienced all kinds of meters, and she was inspired by her work with Merce Cunningham, and I don't know if she played for Merce Cunningham. Someone else can clarify that. But she liked this idea of coming up with a choreography that, based on a plan, based on a sketch. And then the movers and the dancers would hear the music for the first time at the moment of performance. And this was the piece, and she was trying to write the changes of meter as something that the melody insisted upon, such that the change in meter is not surprising, but something that the melody needs and therefore is not jarring.
Very good. Aaron, is your original sound on?
Not yet.
Very good. That'll be helpful.
That's true. Although I don't have the automatically adjust clicked. I don't see
as
the.
long as it just says original sound for musicians on, that's the most critical button for us.
I don't see that button.
Under the menu, are you on a laptop?
Yeah.
Beside your mute button, there's a little arrow.
Yeah.
Click on the arrow. Then the very bottom one is audio settings.
Yes.
Click on audio settings, and then it's halfway down or 2/3 of the way down that page.
Okay. Thank you.
There it is.
Okay. All right. This is a piece called Pastoral. It's from June of 2000. Sorry. That's Pastoral. Yes, yeah, thank you for mentioning the book. It's a fun collection of rounds, songs. And I was reminded of Leslie, you were talking about, or Cynthia, you were talking about songs and people bringing in songs. I remember she would frequently ask us to take the do-to-do scales and make rhythms and put lyrics. And it's something that has become a command or a criticism or a critique in our household is the word prosody, which Anne would use to respond to somebody who had said some words a little, it's not how we say them. And she would just declare this word, prosody. So there was, again, one of these moments of, how do we achieve just one more level? How can we make it just a little bit better?
So good. Maddie Kaiser, I saw that your hand was up just a minute ago. First of all, it's so nice to see you.
Oh, it's so nice to see you too. Oh my gosh, I'm echoey because of, can you mute?
Yeah.
I'm in the same household with one of these handsome fellows. Yeah, sorry, I missed you all at the conference. I wish we could have seen each other in person there, but Aaron just stole my story, actually. I was going to talk about prosody. No, just really how with Anne, I felt, my musicality came from CMU and my lyrics came from Ann Farber and just how to use words. It really came from her, and Erin already articulated it, but we have a 5.5-year-old. A lot of you know her now. She's Sage, and she's in this place where she's making up songs and lyrics now and playing with the lyrics. And we will just Ann Farber her and be like, prosody, when it doesn't quite work. So it lives on.
So good. Well, I think that's so much the point of this series. As we were, I don't know if Veronica remembers how we came into this set of ideas, but I know that we were just talking amongst ourselves about, what kinds of things we would enjoy talking about, and that we thought our community at the VDM might be interested in talking about. And these teachers have been so life-changing, really. I mean, Anne is a major one, and there's actually no shortage of these people who through this work have not just taught us some stuff, or given us some skills, but I mean, really kind of life-changing work. And I don't know how to say it less dramatically, because it really is, it seems to just regularly hit that level. And so I'm so pleased that we've been able to take just a teeny bit of time to talk about just one of the greats of the last many years, and the work that we got to do with Anne. Jennifer.
Yes, I just have a question. I never worked with Anne, and I'm listening to all these stories, and I'm wondering if there's an addition to the collection of songs, if there's like a collection of exercises that have been compiled that she used in the classroom.
I don't think anything's been officially compiled. I don't know if Aaron wants to comment or.
It feels like something that has never been compiled about anybody. We just all have these like memories and lessons that we pass on, and activities that we get from one teacher, and then we find out Tilda Schuster did that too. So maybe how far did this come from? Yeah, but that would be quite a collection.
Ms. Molly.
I want to speak about those early years when taking anything down, taking a note was frowned upon. And I remember being at the conference at the University of Lowell. It must have been 1980. And I would go to a place where I couldn't be seen from the piano, and I would scribble down some stuff because like you say, it was life-changing. That summer in that conference, I was constantly crying. I had a new baby, so I think my emotions were all crazy anyway, but it was such a relief, and I was grateful to really get into this world.
Well, we're about at time, but I think it's worth taking just 1 minute to make a comment to this idea of what we write down and what we don't write down, and what we're encouraged to write down, and how some of those opinions have shifted a little bit over some years. So I think those of us, who go back some years, there was definitely, I'm very aware of this sort of opinion of, well, there is no book of lesson plans, and it's been worn a little bit as a badge of honor, I think, in some times in our community, that there isn't a book of lesson plans. That said, I think that we're more and more, ever more, in an era, though, where we both recognize that there's a lot of greatness that if it isn't jotted down somehow, how's anybody supposed to build on it? How's anybody supposed to work with it? And I think also, if you talk to, I have to believe anybody who has ever been around any of these teachers or has done any amount of serious study in these pedagogies and these methodologies and these Dalcrozian sort of philosophic ways of being, I just have to believe everybody has their own, 4 or 5 notebooks full of scribbles. Everybody does. I don't know how you wouldn't. We all have them. I have many, actually. And so I think there's a difference. There certainly is a difference between taking notes and wanting to kind of remember stuff that happened, and maybe when we, have a different discussion about what would we condone publishing or putting out to a crowd who maybe weren't there to take the, to kind of witness it. So we can have another discussion about that on another day. But I don't think that there's any hesitation, or I'll say, I would encourage all of you to scribble down as many things as you can scribble down. And we've recorded, of course, all of our master classes, and we've recorded all of these conversations with the hope that people will be inspired. We've said over and over, steal all the ideas that you possibly can, turn them into your own, and see how you can move forward. Go ahead, Cynthia, I'll give you the last word tonight.
Thank you. I want to set the record straight on this, though. With Anne, she didn't want us taking notes during Eurythmics because that would upset the flow of Eurythmics, people going and writing things down. So, so we didn't. And, oh yes, we'll have time after class and we'll go over what the class was. And we almost never did because, but she very much required us to take notes during solfege. And we were also pretty much expected to remember what we did during improv because we had to practice those things. So it really wasn't that she was worried about her ideas being stolen. She just didn't give us the time to, recollect. I think most of us these days do have lesson plans and we hand them out afterwards, and that works pretty well. But yeah, that was her problem. She just didn't want us running back and forth to our notebooks, and it would have destroyed the flow.
Yeah, we get it. We so get it. Well, my dear friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Cynthia and Greg and Aaron and Leslie for just taking a little bit of time to think of a couple things that you could say, even though we know we could spend a couple hours and would never get to the bottom of it. This, I hope, is not in any way the end of this conversation. We will continue to honor our great teachers and look for more ways to relive moments and to recreate moments and to be inspired by what they've given us as we continue to push the work forward. So I wish you all well. Be well. Have a great night or afternoon or wherever you are. For everybody chiming in after on the recording, please come to the next live one, and we look forward to seeing all of you soon. Toru's masterclass is this Saturday. If you haven't registered yet, I strongly encourage you to buy a ticket and come to the masterclass. We'll be excited to see you. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and evening.